Won't let me edit the title, but my fool made my sister's boyfriend F23. But he is in fact a male, sorry. So let's make this simple and start out with code names. My sister will be Ella, her boyfriend, Kyle. I'm sitting here in the garage my sister snuck me into freezing my butt off, waiting for a ride to come get me 2 hours away from where I live, because Kyle decided I'm not allowed to be around him, in his house, or in the room while my sister gives birth. Ella's one request is that I be the one with her during the birth. Now she is upset and I am furious and devastated. Her due date was the 20th, but she was planning on getting induced today, Feb 22nd. Little backstory. We lost our mom as kids. Our father chose the drug life over us. We have had to have each other's backs through thick and thin growing up. We also lost our auntie to a house fire, and I was living out of province at the time, so I moved back home to be supportive, and there for my sister and brother. He was 2 when she passed. We have always had a special bond, and our trauma brought us even closer because we felt no one understood us the way we understood each other. Fast forward to last year, she moved away with a man she met alone and got pregnant. Everyone has been so excited. When I heard she was being induced, I instantly made plans to come up the night before. It was difficult because I am not working right now. Due to medical issues and an hurtful ex stalking me outside my house, I was diagnosed with a terminal illness, 10 years to live. I also have PTSD, generalized anxiety disorder, BPD, and CPTSD. Therefore, I take lots of medication for both my mental and physical illnesses. This is important for later. My boyfriend ended up paying $400 for his friend to drive me to her town. It's a small town. Not much here, don't know anyone, but I came for her. I got there and all seemed well except Kyle was being weird. Walked around with no shirt, kept staring. Ella had caught Kyle looking at bikini photos of me I had posted on VSKO a couple years back, and also creeping my Instagram. So she had asked me to wear baggy clothes and not try. I wasn't about to argue with 40-week pregnant Ella on why her boyfriend needed to be corrected and not me. I usually wear shop pants, work in the car industry, and a tank top, but I packed my baggiest t-shirts and shorts to make her happy. It was supposed to be a girls' night, but Kyle decided to stick around and sit there and make the random comment here and there. But I kept ignoring him and asking her questions because I know about the past and him making her uncomfortable by looking at pictures of me. And he has also been caught looking while also being flirty with other women. I was civil, but definitely didn't give him the attention he wanted from us. It was my understanding he was told we wanted time to catch up alone. Then he started making digs about my boyfriend, and that's when I ended up ignoring him completely. Everything with Ella was smooth. We played Mario Party and talked about old times, got a little emotional, a bit of tears, but happy ones. We had good chats while ignoring the random comments Kyle would make or just half-butt laughed at them to shut him up, honestly. I may seem like I despise him right now, but yesterday I was giving him a fair chance and being civil, and once he dissed my own BF, I got uncomfortable. They ended up going to bed. Now to the juicy part, y'all are probably waiting for. I wake up thinking all is well. I was waiting to shower, then head to the hospital with my sister. My sister comes into the living room and says, Kyle said, I'm not allowed to stay anymore. He saw my CM drugs and how much I was sniffling lots, and as a soon-to-be new dad, he doesn't want that around his kid or him. My sister was visibly upset because I was the one family she wanted there, and it cost me $400 and lots of anxiety calming just to get myself here, just to be pushed out by her BF. I was in shock. I said I didn't want to stress her out, so I would get a hotel in the town nearby. Nope. I'm not even allowed to touch the baby or my sister, according to Kyle, and she hasn't even given birth yet. I call my uncle and tell him not to bother booking a room because I have to leave. Then my sister comes back from another talk with Kyle, and the little female genitalia wouldn't even come in the house. Ella explained Kyle is uncomfortable with the drugs I can, and is afraid of skin-to-skin contact and me harming her and the baby. What the frick? He literally smoked 5 bowls of Zaza with my sister last night. At this point, I was livid and said he better keep hiding or he's going to lose a tooth. I realized I shouldn't have made empty threats, but I was livid. So now we're here. Kyle hasn't shown his face. I'm freezing in the garage waiting for my ride, which is another $400. My sister says he's been through a lot and takes mood stabilizers. So not to take it to heart and just go, I'm at a loss. I have to pee too, and IDK where TF to go MAO. Any advice or insight would be appreciated because I'm at a loss. No idea what to do. I love my sister, but I don't know if I can forgive Kyle. Sorry for the rant. Figured it's better than sitting here crying. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Unfortunately, if she isn't willing to stand up for you, herself, and the baby, you cannot help her. Let her know you are there for her. Remind her you take the medications for your diagnosed illnesses and have for many, many years. If Zaza is illegal where you live, call the cops and report him, laughing my butt off. Comment 2. Give your sister a copy of Why Does He Do That? Inside the Minds of Angry and Controlling Men by Lundy Bancroft. You might want to read it as well. It can be found online as a PDF. If you think she might have any problems with Kyle, if he found a physical copy in her possession. Now, for the update. Thanks for the support on my last post. Things have only gotten worse since then. After I finally got home, I thought the drama was over, but I was wrong. Ella gave birth, a beautiful baby girl. I saw pictures, but that's as close as I got. Kyle made sure of that. He's been parading around like he's Father of the Year, posting pictures and updates, acting like he's the perfect dad. It's sickening. Ella's been trying to mediate, but it's clear she's under his thumb. She called me crying, saying she missed me and wished I could be there. I wanted to be there too, but Kyle's word was law, it seemed. He even had the audacity to send me a message saying he was just protecting his family, as if I was some sort of threat. Then the surprise dropped. Kyle had been cheating on Ella, with her best friend no less. The whole town was talking about it. Ella was devastated, and in a moment of weakness, she turned to me for comfort. I wanted to be there for her, but I was also furious. How could he do this to her, especially right after she had his child? Ella decided to confront him, and I was on the phone with her when she did. It was a mess. He denied everything at first, but then his mistress showed up, pregnant. Kyle had gotten her pregnant around the same time as Ella. It was like a bad soap opera, but this was real life, and my sister was the one suffering. Ella kicked him out, but she was a mess. She didn't know how to handle being a new mom and dealing with his betrayal. I wanted to go to her, but I was still the villain in Kyle's narrative, and he had convinced some of our family that I was the problem. I felt helpless. I was the one who was supposed to protect her, but here I was, stuck because of Kyle's lies and manipulation. It was clear he had been walking all over me, and I had let him because I didn't want to cause more stress for Ella. But now I was done. I couldn't just sit back and watch this happen. I took action. I gathered evidence of Kyle's cheating, the messages, the pictures, and I sent them to everyone who had doubted me. I exposed him for who he really was. It was a move that would change everything. The family turned on Kyle, and he was left with nothing. Ella was granted full custody, and he was ordered to pay child support. It wasn't much, but it was something. Ella was starting to stand on her own 2 feet, and I was there for her, even if it was just over the phone. But then, another twist. Kyle's mistress had a miscarriage. It was sad, but it also meant Kyle was suddenly interested in being a part of his daughter's life again. He started harassing Ella, showing up at her house, demanding to see the baby. Ella was scared, and I was furious. I couldn't take it anymore. I went to Ella's. I didn't care what Kyle said or did. When I got there, he was on the porch, yelling. I walked right past him and into the house. He tried to stop me, but I wasn't having it. I was done being walked over. Ella and I called the police, and Kyle was given a restraining order. It was a small victory, but it felt huge. Ella was safe, her baby was safe, and I was there with them. It wasn't the end, but it was a start. Thanks for reading. My girlfriend cheats with a coworker and dreams of a future together. But when I expose her affair to his pregnant partner, she's left with nothing but regret. 2 days ago in the evening, my girlfriend, 29-year-old female, of 5 years, and I, 31-year-old male, had a small argument. Next day in the morning, I felt that something was not quite right. I decided to check her messages with her best friend, and while there was nothing recent, I found a message from the end of February asking how things were between her and a colleague named Jim, fake name, and if she had decided to tell me, as her friend had been suggesting. From there, I went even further and learned that they had kissed at least once during a Christmas party and had discussed their potential future. My partner had written that after New Year's, they had a talk, both admitting they liked each other, but due to circumstances, Jim's partner was giving birth in 2 weeks. They decided not to pursue anything further and parted ways with another kiss. They of course still work together, and Jim is kind of her project manager supervisor. I took screenshots as evidence and confronted her. She pretty much admitted to everything, and her story matched what she had messaged her best friend. I didn't reveal how I obtained the information, but she herself mentioned that it could have been from messages or her diary. She also attempted to explain her reasoning. From what I understood, she had been dealing with depression since autumn 2022, and during the summer of 2023, she discovered she could suppress negative thoughts by being infatuated with this colleague. Therefore, she didn't do anything to control those emotions. I asked her why she didn't tell me any of this. From her perspective, she was dealing with it, but not in a healthy manner. She had taken it too far and should have stopped earlier. Nevertheless, she didn't. And afterward, she preferred to keep me in the dark, thinking it would be more merciful. We discussed marriage, and she supposedly planned to admit everything after I proposed, which I was planning to do in the next few months. I told her that I wasn't even that upset about what happened, but that she lied to me and kept it a secret. In further discussion, she was very sorry that it happened, but since I told her it was better to know the truth, she was actually glad I found out. Apparently, her best friend had been very insistent on her telling me, which led to recent arguments between them. On the other hand, her therapist suggested she handle it herself and not involve me. I packed and left for my parents. I messaged her asking if she thought it was right to tell Jim's partner, and she said it wasn't her or my responsibility and that she couldn't do this to the baby that would be born in a few weeks. She is very adamant about not interfering with the other couple, even if that means parting our ways. My question is, how should I handle this? From the perspective of a physical, emotional affair, I don't think much happened. However, I am deeply hurt by the fact that she didn't tell me and that I had to find out about all of this through snooping around. If she managed to lie to me for over half a year, what else could she lie to me about in the future? Is it worth trying to rebuild my trust if nothing serious happened? How much of a red flag is it not wanting to admit to it to the partner of Jim? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Tell the HR in the company that he used her power to prey on her. Send proof to the girlfriend wife of his, so she knows who she is having kids with. Your girlfriend is upset she got caught. She isn't upset that she committed the act. Why stay with someone who is purposely dishonest? That's what her friend is considering now. Why aren't you? She doesn't even want to tell the other girl because she knows she did something wrong, and probably more than she told anyone. Comment 2. Fact is, if it hadn't been shut down, from the sounds of things, by Jim due to his partner, she would be with him. At the very least, it would have gone further. Don't be a consolation prize. Now, for the update, thanks for sticking around for this update. So, after I left from my parents' place, things got even messier. I was trying to clear my head, but my girlfriend kept texting me, saying she missed me and that she was sorry. I didn't know what to do. I mean, I still cared about her, but trust is a big deal, right? Then, one day I bumped into Jim at the grocery store. It was awkward. He tried to act normal, asking how I was doing, but I could tell he was nervous. I just nodded and walked away. I didn't want to cause a scene, but inside I was boiling with anger. A week later, my girlfriend's best friend reached out to me. She said she felt guilty for keeping the secret and that there was more to the story. Apparently, my girlfriend had been planning to leave me for Jim, but he backed out when he found out his partner was pregnant. That hit me like a ton of bricks. I felt like such a fool. I confronted my girlfriend about it, and she broke down. She said she was confused and scared, and she didn't know what she wanted anymore. She begged me to forgive her and give her another chance. I didn't know what to think. Part of me wanted to work things out, but another part of me felt like I couldn't trust her again. Meanwhile, my own job was getting stressful. My boss had been on my case about a project I was leading, and I was working late nights to keep up. It was like everything was falling apart at once. Then, out of the blue, Jim's partner contacted me. She had heard rumors and wanted to know the truth. I was torn. I didn't want to be the one to break her heart, especially with a newborn baby. But at the same time, I felt she had the right to know. I decided to meet her in person. We sat in a quiet coffee shop, and I told her everything. She was devastated, of course. She thanked me for being honest and left. I felt terrible, but I also felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. After that, things started to settle down a bit. My girlfriend moved out of our apartment, and we agreed to take a break from each other. I focused on work and spent time with my family. It was hard, but I needed to figure out what I wanted without her influence. One day, my boss called me into his office. He said he had noticed the effort I was putting into the project and offered me a promotion. It was a bittersweet moment. I had worked so hard for this, but I couldn't share it with the person I thought I'd spend my life with. As for Jim and his partner, I heard they were trying to work things out. I hope they can find a way to move past this for the sake of their child. So here I am 3 months later. I'm single, I've got a new job title, and I'm slowly rebuilding my life. It's not easy, but I'm getting there. I've learned that sometimes the hardest choices lead to the best outcomes, and I'm okay with that. Thanks for reading. My spouse cheats with an old flame and betrays our 8-year marriage. So I expose their affair and leave them with nothing but regret. It's a sad day to be posting here again. This is my second marriage after a mess of a first, and the idea of being married now or ever is losing its appeal. Anyways, for context, I've been with my 32-year-old, 32, male, now wife, 28, female, for 8 years. We have a toddler with a slight condition that makes raising him a little more difficult than it already would be. My wife stays at home since I make enough, luckily, but this has led to her social network dwindling since she quit her job and had our child. We're at the point now, though, where life isn't constantly cleaning bottles and midnight feedings, so we're getting more sleep at least and feeling human again. We split chores and baby time to keep things fair, too. Along the way, I've been as supportive as I can by introducing her to my friends' wives, a few of my family members, and agreeing to watch our son at certain times just to give her time to go out and make friends. My wife hasn't been able to make any real friends, and she goes to therapy but hasn't been impressed by it. The last few months, we seem to be fighting more often. She seemed checked out and is easily angered with me when things in general get stressful. When we fight, I communicate why I'm hurt by her when I didn't do anything wrong. Usually our son is stressing her out and she begins yelling at me since I'm the only one around. Well, after a few months of this, we had a big heart-to-heart. It seemed really productive, to where we even got a babysitter and went on a wonderful date the next day. We both raved about how much fun it was, like before we had a kid. She complained about how few friends she had still and that it sucks because women make terrible friends, but guys only ever want intimacy. But this was just a light conversation on the way home. When we got home, I noticed her on Snapchat a lot, which we usually use when talking to our families. I saw a name I didn't recognize, though, and of course, you can see where this plot twist is going. I asked who she's messaging, thinking it was some uncle or something, but she lied. She said it was her brother, but clearly wasn't. So I followed up with, no, who's John Smith? And you'd think she just saw a Yona live that she froze so bad. The next few hours were the trickle truth playbook, as is so common. But basically what I saw was her ending their long-distance affair with John. Ironically, she felt so good after our heart-to-heart that she was caught doing the right thing, if you can call it that. If she'd ghosted him or kept messaging him when I was asleep, I might have never caught it. So what happened exactly? John was an old friend with benefits from before we met. They never dated officially because she wasn't ready to settle down. So they just had intimacy and hung out back then. He reached back out to say hi after years of no contact, and she humored him because she was feeling lonely, in her words. She just liked having someone else to talk to at first when I was at work all day. However, she quickly made things intimacy and sent nudes of herself. He, of course, reciprocated, as that's probably why he reached out in the first place. For 5 months, they'd alternate between innocent talking and sexting over Snapchat. This was usually short videos, a few pics, and dirty talking. E.g., "I want to bend you over. Yeah, I bet that I'd feel amazing." Soon that wasn't enough, though, and she started posting on local NSFW subreddits for more attention. She sexted maybe another dozen guys she met from there, mainly dirty talk and some nudes. This all went on for about 5 months, to my knowledge. If you saw my previous posts, I have a low tolerance for cheating these days. My wife knew this. She said she did the minimal effort to get the attention, excitement she wanted from them. So simple, faceless nudes, selfies, videos playing with herself, some dirty talk, etc. So here's my predicament. I warned her that I have a zero tolerance policy after my last marriage. She should have known better anyways, but especially after sharing that ordeal, I wouldn't have expected this from her. But my issue is that if I were to ever forgive it, this is basically the extent that I could. If it was physical, I definitely couldn't, and I know that. I love my son and loved my wife. But knowing that she's capable of this has ended the life of me. Looking back on fond memories, especially any in the last 5 months, feel hollow or even tainted. Some nudes used lingerie that I bought her, which unalives me. I don't want to break up this family, but staying together for the kids never works either. So my ask is, what would you do and how would you feel in my shoes? She's already switched therapists since she believes that was a factor. Her last never solved things, just let you vent, and offered to get rid of her smartphone to reduce temptation. She's been pretty open with me and answered my questions as well now. She seems to grasp the levity of it now. Though if she didn't before, I really wish she had, instead of thinking this was even sort of okay. Thoughts? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Remember Reddit, and especially this forum, heavily leans toward leaving. So you're getting a one-sided opinion. It sounds like you really don't want to leave her. While she didn't admit to it, she was shutting it down. You have plenty of time to make a decision. Give it a go for a period of time and see what happens. Good luck. Comment 2. What would I do? I'd get a divorce. I don't think I'd be able to look at her the same anymore. Like my respect for her would be gone. A big part of it anyway. And I wouldn't want to set an example of a loveless marriage for the kid. Now, for the update, thank you for sticking with me through this mess. Since my last post, things have escalated. My wife's attempts to make amends seemed genuine, but I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story. I was right. Turns out, her old friend John wasn't the only skeleton in her closet. One of my buddies, let's call him Mike, had been acting weird around me. He was one of my closest friends, and I'd introduced him to my wife when we first started dating. I never would have guessed he'd stab me in the back. Mike's wife, who's always been a straight shooter, pulled me aside last week. She'd found messages on Mike's phone, flirty texts with my wife, the kind that make your stomach turn. I confronted him, and after a lot of denials, he finally admitted it. They hadn't met up, but the intent was there. It was like a punch to the gut. My wife, crying, swore it was just a stupid mistake that she got carried away. But how many mistakes can you make before it's just who you are? I was done. I couldn't look at her the same way. I moved into the guest room and started talking to lawyers. But then, in a twisted turn of events, Mike's wife reached out to me again. She'd done some digging and found out that Mike had been embezzling money from the company we both worked at. And he'd set me up to take the fall if it ever came out. I was furious. I couldn't believe the level of betrayal. I went to our boss with the evidence, and Mike was fired on the spot. He tried to apologize, but I was past caring. I had to protect my own career and reputation. It was a small victory, but it felt hollow. In the midst of all this, my wife was trying to win me back. She got rid of her smartphone, like she promised and started going to a new therapist. She was trying to be the perfect wife and mother, but every time I looked at her, I saw lies. Then, the final straw. I got a call from a guy who'd seen my wife's posts on those NSFW subreddits. He'd recognized her and wanted to warn me. He thought it was his duty or something. I didn't need his pity. That call made up my mind for me. I filed for divorce. It was the hardest decision I've ever made, but I couldn't live like that. I couldn't raise my son in a home without trust. My wife was devastated, but I think she knew it was coming. We're working out custody and trying to keep things amicable for our son's sake. As for Mike, his wife left him, and he's facing legal charges for the embezzlement. I guess he got what was coming to him. And my wife, well, she's got a long road ahead if she wants to rebuild her life. Thank you for reading. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.